Well, I thought we'd talk about the 35 Ford a little bit. Were you specifically looking for a 35 Ford when you bought this car?
Yeah, I had one in 1941, which I paid $110 for. But it was not nearly as good as this one. It was pretty beat up and had been scraped against a stone wall on the right-hand side and poorly repaired. Anyway.
So this particular car, so you're looking for a 35, and where'd you find this one, and how did you decide this was the one?
Well, I wanted to get into the old car hobby, and I saw this ad in the New York Times, which I never read, which said, and I quote, 35 Ford four-door convertible sedan, 50,000 miles. Original owner, always garage, never abused, all original, except the canvas top had been replaced and one cylinder head.
And so where were these people? Where'd you have to go to get it?
Well, the people that owned it were in Farmington, Connecticut, and he was a retired dentist. But the story behind it is his brother, who in 1935 was a young man, probably 21 or so, perhaps, but he had cancer, and he told his family that the only thing he really wanted was a brand new Ford convertible sedan, and they bought it for him, and he didn't last too long after that, and so the car became an extra car in the family, and they kept it all the time and just used it occasionally. It was 33 years old and had been 50,000 miles. Well, that's only about 1,500 miles a year.
So you went down and you bought it, and it was in really original shape. What are there particular original features that just kind of resonated with you? Oh, it's so cool, it's got a whatever.
Well, at that time we had our 4 children, ages 20, 18, 16, and 9, and I knew it would fit all 6 of us. Anyway, that was one reason for buying it. And I took a clipboard with me. I was going to list all the things that had to be done to it, but I didn't have anything to put on the list.
Oh, it was in that good shape.
Yeah, it was pretty much as he described it in the ad.
Mm-hmm.
The ad said also that he'd take the best offer he got by September 1st. And it turned out that I beat out a dealer who bid a little less than I did.
And then it was yours, and in order to, you were using it for going to old car meets and just for tooting around in a convertible on a nice summer day. And what few changes did you need to make it reliable and safe for that sort of thing?
Well, I realized that the wiring system there was nothing wrong with it except it was old. It was turning to dust. And it was at least 20 years before I replaced it. And I didn't realize they turned to dust eventually. And those lights that were originally in the car were not very bright anyway, with a 6-volt system, which it still is, but found it necessary to get brighter halogen lights for it. And in order to do that, you really need an alternator rather than a generator, because they take a lot of juice. And anyway, that's what we did. And it's much brighter. It's much brighter and much safer at night. We did also add directionals. They're not automatically canceling, but they do the job. And the rear ones are in the tail lights, and the front ones are in the horns. Favorite memories with the car: going to parades. Remember using it in the 1976 bicentennial parade locally, and the first meet at a distance that I took it to, it snowed, and it really isn't the best car in the snow, but it worked all right. I've also driven it to meets, I believe, at twice in Connecticut, and once at Saratoga Springs, New York, and I drove it up to mid-Maine one summer day, to another car-oriented thing. Anyway.
Well, that sounds like lots of good memories about that car. Just
Yeah.
to finish up, James asked if you'd be willing to say a few words about your experience flying 35 missions as a radio man on a B-24 out of southern Italy toward the end of the war.
Yeah, we were in a town called Cerignola in Italy, and that's just south of Foggia. There were a lot of air fields in that area because it was all flat farmland. I haven't been back to it what my daughter Cynthia has, and it was interesting to see what it looks like now, but it's still back to farmland.
How did you feel when you were over there about doing your part with everybody else? Is it something that was easy to say, yeah, I'm going to go, or was it terrifying to be part of this? Or some of each?
Everybody was doing it. And the system was that you had to get 35 missions in before you could come home. And the war didn't have to be over. So we just about got our 35 missions over about a month before the whole war was over. And we were lucky because we had such a good pilot, and he kept us out of trouble. And he was old. He was 24. And that may sound funny, but most of them were 21, 22. Some of them were as young as 19. And you have a big airplane with 9 other people in your crew, and it's quite a lot of responsibility. And our guy, Lou Dolan, was a serious dude by the book. He wasn't crazy like a lot of the guys were, so he didn't tend to get in trouble. And when the war was over, he got out and he never piloted it again. He went to law school, became a corporate lawyer.
Well, it's thanks to Lou Dolan that you and I are both here today, I think.
Yeah. Most of our problems were with flak, anti-aircraft fire, and they'd tell us how many guns there were in a particular place, and some of the things, you'd be bombing a bridge and there'd be 2 guns there. But in a place like Vienna or Munich, there'd be 600 guns. And they were exploding in black poofs around the airplanes. And if it didn't hit you, the explosion would rock the airplane. They say that fewer than 2% of Americans who served in World War II are alive today. Well, 10% of our crew is alive today.
Which would be you.
I'm the last survivor. We all came home, fortunately, without getting anybody wounded or killed. And we all lived ordinary lives after coming back. And for the last 11 years, I've been the only one left.
Well, thank you for sharing all that, Dad.